Have you heard of the midnight game? It's an old game, a bad game, a ritual, some say. They say it summons a terrifying entity, a being of pure darkness. They say it preys on fear, feeds on your deepest terrors. They say once you start, there's no turning back. Are you brave enough to play, foolish enough to risk your soul? Turn back now while you still can. The old house loomed over them, its shadows stretching across the cracked pavement like a dark omen. Its vacant windows stared like empty eyes, hollow and unblinking, as if watching their every move. Adam, Walid and Sammy stood on the sidewalk, their breath hanging in the cold night air, forming small clouds that quickly dissipated. They gripped a candle, a piece of paper with their names scribbled on it, and a wooden door that seemed to creak in anticipation. Excitement warred with a growing unease in their chests. This was it, the moment they had been both dreading and eagerly awaiting. Time to play the midnight game, a test of courage and perhaps a brush with the supernatural. Ready for this? Adam asked, his voice barely masking his own nervous excitement. Adam, ever the daredevil, grinned, his eyes gleaming with a mix of fear and thrill. His voice a nervous tremor in the stillness, betraying the adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Yeah, I guess so," Walid replied, his voice wavering as he tried to muster some courage. Walid, usually the cautious one, swallowed hard, his throat dry and tight. He nodded, his eyes darting towards the dark maw of the house's entrance, a silent challenge to his own fears. "This is crazy, even for us," Sammy muttered, his voice tinged with a mix of fear and disbelief. Sammy, the skeptic of the group, shifted from foot to foot, his usual bravado nowhere to be found. A hint of nervous excitement coloured his voice, betraying the thrill he felt despite his reservations. With that, they stepped across the threshold and into the darkness, their hearts pounding in unison. The air inside was heavy with the smell of decay and dust, a testament to the years of neglect. Cobwebs clung to their faces as they moved deeper into the house, each step taking them further from the safety of the outside world. The floorboards groaned beneath their feet, the sound echoing through the empty halls like the moans of a dying beast, adding to the eerie atmosphere. They found their way to the living room, its once grand fireplace now a gaping maw of cold brick, a silent witness to their daring. Here they would play the game, a test of their courage and perhaps a night they would never forget. They placed the wooden door in the center of the room. The single candle flickered, casting grotesque shadows that danced on the walls. Adam pricked his finger, letting a single drop of blood fall onto the paper with their names. He took a deep breath and knocked on the door 22 times. 1, 2, 3. Each knock echoed through the house, raising goosebumps on their arms. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. The clock chimed 12 times, each clang a hammer blow to their already frayed nerves. They opened the door. The hallway beyond was pitch black, an abyss swallowing the meager light from their candle. And then the game began. The darkness seemed to press in on Adam, suffocating him, as if the very air around him was thick and heavy. Every creak of the house, every rustle of wind outside sent shivers down his spine, making him feel more isolated and vulnerable. He held the candle tighter, its flame a tiny beacon in the suffocating darkness. Then he heard it, a sound that made his blood run cold. A whisper, soft at first, then growing louder, echoing through the empty spaces of the old house. "Adam! Adam!" The voice was eerie, almost otherworldly. His name. It was unmistakable. It was his name. uttered in a voice that sent chills down his spine, a voice he did not recognize. He whipped around, his heart pounding in his chest, the sound of his own heartbeat echoing in his ears, but there was nothing there, just shadows and silence. Just the oppressive darkness and the ever-present feeling of being watched, a sensation that made his skin crawl. He felt a cold breath on the back of his neck, making the hairs on his arms stand on end, as if someone or something was right behind him. He spun around, but again there was nothing there, only the emptiness of the dark hallway. Just the wind, he told himself, though he didn't quite believe it. He muttered, trying to convince himself that it was all in his head, a trick of the mind. But deep down, a primal fear coiled in his gut, a fear that told him he was not alone. He knew something was wrong, very wrong. The darkness held secrets, and he was about to uncover them. The unseen terror. Walid, his senses on high alert, crept down a hallway. Each step was a monumental effort, his legs heavy as lead. The silence was almost unbearable, broken only by the frantic thudding of his own heart. Then he heard it. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps coming from the room behind him. He whirled around, his heart leaping into his throat, but the room was empty. He stared into the darkness, his eyes straining to see. Nothing! He took a step back, his hand brushing against the wall. It was ice cold, sending a jolt of fear through him. He continued down the hallway, a knot of fear tightening in his stomach. He could feel eyes on him, watching his every move. A shiver ran down his spine, and he quickened his pace, desperate to escape the suffocating darkness. Sammy found himself in the old nursery, a place he hadn't visited in years. A rocking horse stood frozen in mid-rock, its vacant eyes staring into nothingness, as if it held secrets of the past. The air was thick with the feeling of dread, suffocating him, making every breath a struggle. He felt a pressure on his chest, like an invisible weight pushing down on him, making it hard to breathe, as if the room itself was alive and pressing in on him. He gasped, his hands flying to his throat, trying to claw away the invisible hands that seemed to choke him. A scratching sound started from the corner of the room, faint but unmistakable. Slow at first, then growing more insistent, the sound seemed to echo in the silence. He turned towards the sound, his eyes wide with fear, his heart pounding in his chest. The scratching grew louder, more frantic, as if something were trying to claw its way out, desperate to escape. He wanted to run, but his feet felt rooted to the spot, as if the floor itself was holding him in place. The pressure on his chest intensified, squeezing the air from his lungs, making him feel like he was drowning in fear. He stumbled back, his hand connecting with something cold and hard. It was a wall. He was trapped, with no way out. The scratching reached a fever pitch, the sound echoing through the room like a scream, filling his mind with terror. Section 7, 3 o'clock salvation. Time lost all meaning as the friends wandered through the darkness, each haunted by their own personal terror. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. The candle burned lower, threatening to plunge them into absolute darkness. They stumbled back to the living room, their faces pale, their eyes wide with terror. The clock chimed. Once, twice, 3 times, 3 o'clock. The game was over. They collapsed onto the floor, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and relief. The candle sputtered and died, plunging them into darkness. But it was a welcome darkness, a comforting darkness compared to the horrors they had just experienced. Section 8. A lingering unease. Dawn painted the sky with hues of orange and pink as they stumbled out of the house. The sunlight felt warm on their faces, a stark contrast to the icy chill that had permeated the house. They were safe. For now. But as they walked away from the abandoned house on Harlow Street, they couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The darkness had touched them. left its mark on their souls, and they knew deep in their hearts that they would never be the same. Section 9. Echoes of the Midnight Game. Whispers of the Midnight Game have echoed through time, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurks just beyond our perception. Its origins are shrouded in mystery, lost to the mists of ancient folklore. Some say it originated in ancient pagan rituals, a way to punish trespassers or appease vengeful spirits. Others believe it was a form of divination, a dangerous game used to contact the other side. Whatever its true purpose, the Midnight Game remains a chilling example of the enduring power of fear, a testament to the darkness that lies dormant within the human psyche, waiting for the right moment to surface. Section 10. A game not meant for the living. The Midnight Game is more than just a game. It is a portal, a doorway to a realm where our deepest fears take on a terrifying life of their own. A realm where the darkness is not just the absence of light, but a living, breathing entity. So if you ever find yourself tempted to play the Midnight Game, remember this. Some doors are best left unopened. Some games are not meant to be played, and some darkness should never be disturbed.